Welcome. In this video we're going to learn how to edit video. The software that I'm going to use today is Premiere Pro, but this applies to many other softwares. Premiere Pro is a very high-end video editor that unfortunately costs money, but it's like worth it. It's that good. If you want to go for free options, then we start off with iMovie. A step above that is CyberLink Power Director and DaVinci Resolve. We'll link all that in the bottom. I highly recommend you start off with free software and then you go from there. Songs and sound effects for your videos. You will go to YouTube Studio on a computer. Then you go to Audio Library. Then you go into there and you can find songs, sound effects, etc. I'm going to be using a song from YouTube's Audio Library, which is free and copyright free forever. Okay, so how have I learned how to edit video? When editing video, it is important to remember, keep it short and sweet. Don't make it super long because people are not going to watch it. Get it to the point. Don't add things just because, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, but if it doesn't add meaning, there's no point in putting it in there. The story is the most important. So that's the biggest challenge about editing video, is how to tell the story through how you edit the video. And that you can only do by practicing and by watching other people. Story, to the point. Don't just add random stuff. I even do that sometimes. If you want to add a drone shot or a cool transition, does it have meaning and does it add to the story? If it doesn't, then don't do it. Control S, save. Always save. Always save. Control S the whole time. No matter how advanced your computer is, eventually it's just gonna... One day you're gonna lose that whole video that you've edited for 3 hours straight. So Control S, save the whole time. Now let's actually get into practically editing video. So on my screen here, I'm just going to take this folder that I've made. It has a few videos and it has a song from YouTube's Audio Library, which is free. So here I've put the file into my bin. Here's the different windows: source window, my program window, my timeline, and my project window. Program is where you're going to see your video, and timeline is where the editing happens, where all the video and audio is placed, and your project bin is where all your resources, everything that you're going to use for recording the video, is put. This is an editing setup. So first I'm going to double click and go into here, and I'm just going to double click on a video. So I can scroll to go through here very smoothly through each frame, or I can just drag this mark here to go through each part. So now let's say I want I'm going to press play on my spacebar and it plays. So let's say I want from this point here, when it's in focus, I press I to start an in point, and then I press play, and there. Then I press O for an out point. So this part that I've selected here, I grab this, press and hold, left click, can drag this video into my timeline. Let's say I just wanted the video, I could just drag this part here. Or let's say I just wanted my audio, I could just drag the audio. But if I want the whole thing, I grab from the window. Let's say I wanted this whole clip here. I could either just drag these, or I wouldn't even have to set in and out points. I could just drag the whole video in. So now I'm working in my timeline. Here on the left side, you can see V1, V2, and V3, and A1, A2, and A3. Those are your audio and video rows. So video obviously goes in the V rows and audio goes in the A rows, A for audio. What you can do is you can magnetically set your timeline. I do that, it helps a lot. So let's say I take this video again, this exact same video, and you can see how it clips into place. It just magnetically clips into place. So that's what this magnetic icon does. Sometimes this will go off for no reason. Just remember it's on. Just remember to check if it's on. I now currently have my selection tool. This is the razor tool to cut. So if I choose I want to cut there, then it splices the video and audio. This is my text tool. So if I click on my text tool, I can drag on my program area here and text box. Down here, if we go back here in this left corner here, you can see there's these locks. If I toggle any of these locks off, it will make sure that nothing changes on that row. So if I lock, this whole row is locked. Nothing will happen to it. Nothing will change. Let's say I take my razor tool. I can't cut it because it's locked. Go back to my selection tool, unlock that. I can also choose if I want something's visible or not by toggling the visibility icon. And that's basically all you need to know about this section of the video editing software. So let's get back to those text boxes. I use text boxes a lot. So I'm selected the text box here because it's highlighted in white. And then I'm going to go in here and click in my window. It's still selected. Double click. And now I can type whatever I want. So I'm just going to type in test. And now let's say I want to change the color and the size. So now I highlight that. Go to my effects controls because I want effects on this part that's selected. Effects, graphics, video, here, text. Drop down arrow. Here I can choose my font. I can choose my size with this slider. I can align it to the center, left or right. I can go down here, appearance, fill. So what color do I want to fill this text with? Let's choose black. Okay, there we go. Now let's say I want to move this text. I'm still in my text tool, so it thinks I'm going to type. So I'm going to choose my selection tool, and this box has now changed to a blue box that I can now move around. Okay, but here's now a problem. My text goes over the video. So I can just take here, grab the video at the end. Notice how it's showing me this red semi-square. I can press and compress this, and it just trims the rest that was here, just trims that. Let's say I want to move. I want to zoom in on the video. So I select the video with my selection tool. I go to my effects, and here position and scale. I could zoom in by just changing the value of scale. How much is it scaled in? Let's say I want to change the X position or the Y position, like that. Notice how there's black bars here in my program window. That means that the video isn't actually there. That means there's no video playing there. It's just black, empty space. You don't normally want that unless it serves a purpose. So I'm just going to zoom in till the black is gone, like that. And now, if you go through my entire video, you can see there's no black bars, and it's zoomed in at this point. Notice how only this part, this first part here, was zoomed in and this wasn't. That's because these two videos were trimmed. If the video was one whole thing, then it would apply this to the whole video. But because it was trimmed, it wasn't. Okay, but now I want these same settings on this video also. So with this video selected, I go into motion, which is the heading of this. It's the effect motion. I click on motion and I copy it using the shortcut Control C. Then I click on the video that I want to copy that to, and I say Control V for paste. Now that video has the same zoomed in settings. Control S. Remember to save. Now, let's say I want to add some music. Take the music here, you can just drop it from there. Now, let's say you want to edit the video to the beat of the music. The easiest way to do that is listen to the song and add markers on the beat. So how do you add markers? Markers are little green pointers that show you where in the timeline you've selected to put that marker. And then remember, your timeline is magnetic, so it can clip into those markers, making it easy to edit video like that. So to show you, you press M on your keyboard to add a marker. So if the shortcut is not enabled, then you can go to, if you want to add any shortcuts that I have not listed below, just go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, and here it shows you your whole keyboard. So here I've set M on my keyboard to the add marker. So as I listen to the song, I'm going to press M on the places where I want my video to change on the beat. So I'm going to drag it and press M. And now I've added markers to the beat of the music. So now when I drag and drop one of my videos into here, I can then trim that video to lock into the place where the marker is so that it goes on the beat. So let's say I take another video, I take that, and then I choose my cutting tool. The keyboard shortcut is C, so I can just press C if I want, C, and then it's changed to cutting tool. I can cut on those marker points. So there, V for my selection tool, select that, delete, go back, this cactus, drag this down, C for cutting tool, cut, cut, V for selection tool, and there we go. And I just want to put that in the middle, right there. That's too long, so I'll choose an in point there and an out point there. And it's still a bit too long, but I'll trim it. Trim up until that marker, and there we go. So now when I play this, the video is going to change to a different video on the points of the marker. See how much easier that was. Imagine if I had to go listen to that whole thing and be like, no, the video should much easier. I only learned that like later on, so you're really at an advantage. Okay, so now I have this beautiful timeline with a text here. Let's say I want this text to move. And this applies for pretty much anything that I want to do. If I want to add an image, a text, even video, I can make video move. So I just go here to my text, I select it, then I go to my effects. Now, I toggle my stopwatches. What this does is now going to track what I'm changing. So what does that mean? If they weren't toggled on, let's say they weren't toggled on, they were just off. Then if I made the text bigger, then the whole text would be bigger. But Control Z, that's another shortcut. Control Z means undo. It's also a very valuable one. Control Z, undo. Now let's say if I toggle those on. Now I say at this point, I want it to be that big. Then notice how it's going smaller because I dragged this here and added one of these little diamonds, these things here, which are called keyframes. It's basically like saying a start and end point. So I'm saying at this point where I changed the values, it added automatically a keyframe for me, saying at that point I want it to be the value that I set. But then the rest of the time, it's gonna go back to the original value. So let's say, so now we've got it slowly getting bigger. Let's say I want it to abruptly get bigger. So I'm just gonna Control Z that. back to normal. Now I want it to abruptly get bigger at this point here. So I add a keyframe like that. Then I go 1 frame forward. To go 1 frame forward, you could either press this button here, or you can press the arrows on your keyboard, the right or left arrow just wants to go 1 frame forward. So now I've gone 1 frame forward. Now I set the value that I want it to be, that big. Now I go 1 frame forward again, and now I set it back. You can just press revert. We'll take it back to its original setting. Now for that 1 frame, it's big. But for all the other frames, it's still small. If I wanted it to be bigger for longer, then what I could do is just undo. Then I wouldn't add that second keyframe that I did. That reverts it back. So here I just have 1 keyframe over there. Here, we can see here it is, this point. It is now 193% bigger. This keyframe applies to anything that has a stopwatch on it. Rotation, anchor points, all these different features in the video editor, you could apply this to. So now let's go into audio. I'm just going to show you basics on how to get your audio sounding crispy. So I have A1, this audio channel right here, this row, audio row 1. So I'm going to go here and choose audio track mixer. If it's not there, I go to window and I select it. Then I want to go to scroll down, A2. This is this audio track 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this drop down arrow. I'm going to add an effect, amplify and compression. And if I choose amplify, what that does is it can either make that whole row softer or louder by certain decibels. So let's say I just wanted a tiny bit softer. Then I'll double click on it and say I wanted a -1 or -3 decibel cut. So that's going to go down, the whole row is going to go down by 3 decibels. How you can check how your audio is sounding, you go down here to the side, this window over here. When editing video, your goal is to have this audio just below 0. So notice how I'm going through this video, and you can see how those bars are almost touching 0. That's perfect. That is not how loud your computer's speakers are. That's actually how much decibels is coming from the audio. So it won't matter how loud you put the PC or not. I'm going to add another effect. This is a very important effect. Noise reduction and restoration. Restoration. Sorry guys. De-noise. Beautiful effect. Absolutely beautiful. It does exactly what it says. It just takes away the noise in the background. The noise effect will just make it softer, and then I add the amplify effect to make it louder. But if I actually want to make the audio louder, I click on it, go to effects, and I go down here to volume level, and I just increase it or decrease it. Now I'm going to show you effects and adding color correction to your videos. So let's start with effects. Let's say I want to stabilize this first video. So I select that video and I go down here to this project window, select effects. This effect is not the same as this effect here. This effect is where I change the effects, and this effect is where I get the effects. Just like that. You'll understand. So I'm going to go here and search. You can go into video effects or video transitions. This is also where you'll get your transitions like dissolve and fade and wipe and all those. That's what they're pretty self-explanatory. It's just drag and drop. But let's say we want to stabilize this image. So we go to warp stabilizer. This one right here. We're going to drag and drop onto that video clip. Now if I play it, that brings me on to another part in video editing. Notice how this bar here along my timeline is red. that means that my video is not rendered. So every time I press play, it's got to render the whole video every single time. So that's why my computer is having a hard time and lagging. So how do I avoid that? You press enter on your keyboard and it will render that whole portion. Let's say you only want to render a certain portion. You go on your timeline, select a piece, say in I, press I for in point and select another point, O for out point and press enter, and it will render that part so that the computer doesn't have to render it every time you press play, and it will just be a smoother process. Control Z to undo. So now I'm not going to render it because it's going to take a while, but as you can see, if you look closely, it is much smoother. Much smoother. Keep in mind, warp stabilizer doesn't work with all videos. Sometimes if the video is too shaky, it makes it look like it's warped. Hence warp stabilizer. Let's say I want to look at my video. Click on this program window and press the tilde on my keyboard. I will show you what tilde looks like right now. To go out of it, press tilde again. So there you can just see your whole video and just watch it as it was intended to be full screen. So I'm just going to go back to my folder where all my videos are, over here. And I'm going to click out of there. So here's my whole video. I'm just going to quickly zoom out with Alt Scroll. Scrolling out, scrolling in, zooming in and out. Adjustment layer. You're going to go here to new item. You're going to click adjustment layer. You're going to say okay, and there it is. This is like a transparent video almost. So I'm going to drag this transparent video on top of everything. Why am I making transparent video, you ask? So that I can color correct this video. Now, here's the two ways that you can do this. I could either color correct the actual video. So I select that and then go to color and color correct it. But the way it's easier to do it if you just go and color correct on an adjustment layer, because then let's say I want to change the color, or let's say I want to just adjust it, then I don't have to adjust it on every single video. Because this is a transparent layer, anything below it will have that effect. So let's say I want all my videos to have an effect, I just drag it over all my videos. Let's say I only want a few of them, I drag it only over those few. So I select my adjustment layer and I go to color. And here's my basic color settings. So I'm here in basic correction. I can change the temperature, make it a tiny bit warmer, a tiny bit more warmer, even more. I can change the exposure, add contrast. I can go into creative. I can go into curves. This is really advanced color correcting stuff, and I highly recommend you go watch somebody that knows what they're doing with that stuff, because I do not even touch that. If you do not know, like me, how to color correct, you can actually use their presets. And their presets are in basic correction. So I go here, and let's say I want this phantom gamma preset. And there we go. Let's say I want this Alexa V3 preset. I can also go to my color wheels and determine what color I want the shadows, midtones, and highlights. Highlights are the really bright parts, midtones is everything between, and the shadows is the really dark parts. So I want my midtones to be more blue, I want my highlights to be also a bit more blue, and I want my shadows to be a bit more orange. And we'll apply that. Now let's say, if I go through my whole clip, it's got that whole color corrected effect to it. Let's say I don't want that effect anymore. I can just remove the adjustment layer. Now it doesn't have the effect anymore. Or I can just delete the adjustment layer. That's why you would color correct on the adjustment layer. So you don't have to go into every single clip and color correct each one individually. Okay, now we're going to go back to editing. And here is the final part of video editing, exporting the video. So I'm going to go Control M, or go File, Export, and it'll give me this tab. So I choose my format, H.264. That's the format you go with. The preset, high bitrate. If you're uploading to YouTube, you can just go down to YouTube here and you can say whatever resolution your video is. If you don't know what resolution it is, you can just go here to source. This is the video that you provided. So if the video you provided was 1080p, then you want to export the video at 1080p. You don't want to export it at a higher resolution. It just won't do that. You can't go from lower to higher, but you can go from higher to lower and the quality will be better. And it will automatically make it so that it's perfectly suited for YouTube. And I press export. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped you in any way. Remember, we've put down sources, really worth it sources down in the description. Practice makes perfect. Thanks so much for watching. Now go record a video and go edit it and go upload it. Go upload it to YouTube right now. Right now. Cheers. I'm just switch off my computers.